Alright, I've been meaning to play this one for a while, but I'm finally getting around to it. Notice how I'm clicking hardcore mode, cause I ain't no scrub, okay? This DLC hops right into it, much like this video, with Rose meeting up with a guy in the park who is seemingly way too old and nervous to be meeting with a 16-year-old. He's codenamed K, even though Chris Redfield's name is not. I guess it's just a hip nickname to fit in with the kids. We already got to see it in the final moments of the base game, but Rose is wearing Ethan's jacket, his parting gift to her before he dies. Dies, like for real this time. And I think it needs to be said that I couldn't have thought of a better character design. Rose is supposedly a horrendous monster with self-esteem issues, and she's bullied relentlessly by her peers for having superpowers, though we have no idea what they are. We can surmise they're pretty awesome since Chris wants her on his operations team, but Rose is riddled with the classic teenage angst to be normal and have friends. Kay gives a quick glance around for Chris Hansen and a SWAT team before inviting Rose back to his office on the grounds of getting rid of her powers. Kay explains the main game's antagonist, Miranda, researched the Mutamycete obsessively, but her newly discovered notes are incomplete despite maniacally authoring her entire evil plot step by step. Plans foiled by Daddy Ethan. In these incomplete notes, she mentions finding a magical purifying crystal that has the potential to cure Rose of her cursed powers permanently, but there's no way to find it without entering the consciousness of this evil jar. Quick lore dropped that the Megamycete is a hive mind with the thoughts and memories of every person who, emphasis on this part, dies near it, contained within. Rose is immediately on board, no questions asked. Not even a, hey guys, do you want to do a large-scale excavation at the place where this lady performed all of her research for years? There's only one of these purifying crystals? But, you know, whatever. Let's animorphs into this evil fungus. Rose Kingdom Hearts drops into some weird memories she's been having lately, which right off the bat alludes to Rose being in a similar sort of limbo between life and death that happened to her dad shortly into the events of Resident Evil 7. She wakes up back in the upside-down version of the office with the jar of Megamycete missing and a file posted to the wall that says Kay is willing to commit several felonies by risking Rose's life to advance this research, all in the name of science. Open up the door and enter the bad acid trip joke here, and we're back in the dungeons. Rose stumbles across lots of blood, a note mentioning the crystal, and a shoe that I'm still not quite sure the purpose of outside of setting a creepy tone. A bloody shoe. Here we go, fellas, it's time for Resident Evil. Continue down the hallway and a locked door starts banging very loudly, responding to Rose's greeting with a girl's voice saying, "Don't dead, open inside." Rose walks around for a second, yanks a chain, finds a key, some concerning ooze, and knocks out the first and only cheap jump scare of the entire DLC. Big progress. Head back to the banging door and unlock it to find some very wholesome children's artwork. More concerning ooze grabs Rose and starts to pull her in, but someone pulls her out and it's Rose? Question mark, question mark. She has no interest in talking very much because of the impending doom. Follow her a bit to find more Roses locked in jail cells and your very first fungus zombie thing, which seems to feed on your soul or something. Other Rose dies, more zombies show up, and the Holy Spirit helps you out by disintegrating a 1-foot thick solid stone wall and starts manifesting directions to safety. Rose gathers herself for a second before the writing asks her if she's okay. Almost immediately I was thinking, Dad? Is that you? But then it says his name is Michael and I was like, oh, missed opportunity. I debated with myself at first about if this writing on the wall was the best way to guide Rose through the story, but I couldn't really think of a better way to present it that would have been less cheesy, so I settled on this being the best they could have done with what they had written. I mean, what the hell are they gonna do? Give you a little fairy or a talking head or something? The guardian angel tells Rose to leave because it's too dangerous, but she says she won't go until she finds what she's looking for. Onward deeper into the castle. Down another hallway through a cracked door we find the dupe putting another Rose look-alike to the death, and the sight of the purifying crystal makes Rose reveal herself by stumbling through the door, and I was like, wow, you are not playing this cool at all. Run away for a bit and Michael manifests the holy handgun for Rose to protect herself. The ultimate gift. I would have appreciated a dodge mechanic like in the remakes, but 3-hour campaign, no big deal, we'll make it work. Head over to the main room and there's this loosely caged purifying crystal hung from a statue with 3 indentions for 3 different masks. I was looking at this thinking, maybe you reach your hand in there and speed this process up a little bit, but alright, we're doing this. Head through the double doors, quickly find some Resident Evil brand bolt cutters to head through another door, and we found the first mask, but it's trapped, and Rose is conflicted about how to use her powers to free it. I mean, seriously, how have these powers been hindering her from a normal life if she doesn't even know what she can do? Michael tells her she needs an amplifier, wade through some ooze and zombies for a minute, and voila, a dopamine-inducing amplifier with a journal entry that says the blooms we come across are anchor points for the Mutamice heat. Concentrate for a moment, and we finally begin to see what Rose is capable of. Head back out to the statue, stunning some zombies along the way, and find a clue leading to the second mask before freeing the first mask. Michael gives a quick mental health check and some holy ammunition next to a caged shotgun, and I asked, "Hey man, you can disintegrate walls, can you help me out here? Maybe melt some of these locked doors?" But there is no response. He's busy. Clear out some paths and head upstairs to find another clue. Venturing a bit further, and the Duke speaks to us through some conveniently placed speakers and TVs. A big boy with a spiked two-hander spawns in. That looks like a one-hit KO for sure. I'm not messing with that. Keep running and find our second amplifier, followed by a key to the basement. Stop by the Duke's room for a weapon attachment. Nice. And a disturbing journal entry implying he has no memories of his own and is fueled by a sadistic urge to hunt roses. Back out to the courtyard, unlock a creepy door, solve a puzzle that didn't respond to the correct answer the first time for some reason. Rose doesn't believe in ladders and she has bionic legs. Run from the big guy again, and now we've got mask number 2. A short detour has been made for us on the way back. Michael drops some wisdom and flowers, thank you, and pick up the missing piece to solve another puzzle that feels like it probably should have just been a key in a drawer or something. A little bit too easy. I guess it did a good job of setting the tone and reiterating that the Duke is hunting wabbits. And hey, we got the shotgun now. I'm ready for anything. Off to mask number 3. This next puzzle was momentarily jarring for me. Resident Evil games, especially the first-person ones, have a way with immersion. The real-life fear you experience while playing elevating that sense of escapism. I understand the design for most of this DLC was based around Rose's powers, but seeing that they have a range of like 10 feet kinda took me out of it. It was definitely a, I am playing a game right now moment. Anyways, burn some goo to drop some furniture onto goo to reach more goo to drop down more furniture, and we've reached mask number 3. Big guy gets the jump on you and you wake up in a cell surrounded by lots of bulbs to pop with a timer going, pressuring you to get the right ones. Maybe I was just tired when I did this, but my immediate instinct was not to stand there calmly and analyze my surroundings to notice Michael's frantic signing. I started popping sclerotia for the first couple attempts until I saw what I was supposed to do, which felt more trial and error than a fair challenge. Fitting for the context of the narrative, but speaking strictly about game design seemed like a way to stretch another few minutes into the campaign to make it seem longer. Make it out of the cell and have a celebratory moment with Michael. Now it's time to get that purifying crystal in. Wow, it does not look like this cage has any glass shielding it whatsoever. Why didn't we just grab it earlier? Okay. Oh no, we've been had. It's a phony. That darn Duke. Now we gotta fight the big scary guy. Pretty straightforward battle, nothing to make you sweat here. Shoot him up and then follow Michael's directions to drop down into another stratum. Michael warns us to leave again before it's too late, and I couldn't help but second Rose's response when she was originally told this the first time, but how am I supposed to do that? Rose is deep in this anyways, ready to keep looking. I gotta mention that I think the small edits to reused assets were tastefully done enough to make you feel like something different might happen. Resident Evil games are in my opinion the kings of map design, even if the environments themselves aren't exactly perfect. Michael is being blocked from communicating with us by someone unknown, and coincidentally this ends up being the scariest part of Shadows of Rose. When you're playing a third-person game, it can give you this feeling of looking over someone's shoulder. I'm not saying it can't be scary, but it's definitely less scary than first person. When you have a literal guardian angel dropping directions and healing items at random stacked on top of it, the immersing feelings of fear and isolation are toned way down. We're in another recognizable place, familiar from what I thought was the creepiest part of the base game, and it is certainly checking the same box here in the DLC. We're greeted with some fun party decorations and some of Rose's very own journal entries describing, "Oh, Her superpower is oozing white stuff from her hands. I am now fully on board with searching for this cure. The following puzzles aren't exactly difficult, but good at keeping you on edge throughout exploring the house. Doll-obsessed child from the base game wants to play with you, perform surgery on Mr. Monkey, and start guessing placements of dolls and scenes that will prey on Rose's fears or insecurities involving people from her memories. No head scratchers here, but along your back and forth between puzzles and narrow hallways, having to walk past some randomly appearing mommy mannequins made me a little nervous. Foreshadows what lies ahead. Keep your eyes on the mannequins to keep them still before they're able to grab you, and good God, that is disturbing the first time around. It's easy enough managing just the one, but I was disoriented for a moment trying to walk backwards, turning corners and maintaining sight on several at a time. The next section involves shrunken down Rose stealthing past levitating dolls ready to stab you with their Doc Ock attachments, and I will admit, it seems a little out of place in Resident Evil.
What was that noise?
Becoming the theme of the video here, but I guess the developers had a hole to fill and weren't sure how to go about it. I don't even know. Burn away some sclerotia with your embarrassing powers and casually duck around until you get to the bedroom and have to sprint away from a giant mommy mannequin and Michael finally finds you. Rose is a bit distraught and confused why the dolls are harassing her about her dad since she doesn't know anything about him. And I love this little ellipses in Michael's question here and how something so simple conveyed so much tone through some simple text. Bit of a dead giveaway if you ask me, but considering where the cutscene drops us off, it is one of many clues we're about to see regarding Michael's identity. We're in the Winters house from when she was a little baby, and I don't care what anyone says. As a parent having seen everything that happened in Resident Evil 7 and 8, the entire storyline resonated with me, and seeing all of Ethan's memories is especially heart-wrenching by the time you get to his letter. Evelyn interrupts the emotional moment with hands down the most trial and error section and boss fight of all of Shadows of Rose, and maybe any game I've ever played. I didn't play the easier difficulties, so maybe it's smoother than what I'd experienced, but you have to use your powers as well as time everything in just the right way to make it to the checkpoint before the battle, and the fight itself consists of confusingly dying one step further ahead than you did last time, until you finally get it right. But it was more of an annoyance than a challenge, and I don't think it did the game any favors. Accept Evelyn's verbal abuse for 20 minutes until you finally subdue her, before she releases one last explosion of furniture that requires a familiar figure to materialize and push you out of the way into another deeper stratum. Rose finally realizes this Michael guy might be her dad, and inspired by yet another one of his sacrifices, she pushes forward. Run through a handful of zombies until you drop down several cliffs into a concentration of Miranda's research, where you'll learn about the origins of the Rose clones and how none of them will suffice for what she needs, the real Rose. Move forward and stumble across a statue that's purpose seems to be only to show you this Miranda lady is insane, but it did give some correlation to the Resident Evil 4 plotline, which I thought was kinda neat. Head up the stairs and we finally arrived at the precious purifying crystal. Real this time. Miranda appears and, like any good villain, reveals her entire evil plot right there on the spot, revealing that Kay bringing Rose here was an extension of Miranda all along, which makes his questionable reasoning at the start of the game make a bit more sense, and that Miranda still has ways of affecting the real world through the mutamycete even in death. Ethan shows up, and while running away from Miranda and the flood of evil goop, they have a small heart-to-heart about why he kept his identity a secret from Rose the whole time until they get outside. Ethan once again tells her to leave, and with Crystal in hand, she has the choice to go back home curing herself of her powers, or to stay and fight. Ethan near comedically dying and taking a brutal beating in the background while she makes her decision. Smashing the crystal on the ground, she's ready to fight, and there's that fancy dodge ability I was hoping for earlier. Because of how tough it was in the base game, I expected this fight to be much harder. I was able to pull it off on the first try, but lore-wise, Rose is far better equipped than Ethan was when he took on Miranda. This is practically her destiny. In Rose's decision to stay, I think there is a more powerful message that immediately meets the eye. Some of Ethan's final words to Chris were to teach Rose to be strong, something she's struggling to learn in life without her dad. Throughout the events of Shadows of Rose, seeing some of the hellscape Ethan went through and the several sacrifices he made for her, and still is making for her, inspired her to make the same righteous choice. And it begs the question if Rose at the start of all this would have been able to forsake her dreams of normality and make that choice. I see a lot of people hate on Rose's character, but I think it was the writer's intent for her to be portrayed the way that she was. Although it is vaguely conveyed, Rose went through a lot of growth very quickly and received the love and closure from her dad that she needed to shape herself into who they both hoped she could be. Ethan's final parting gift to her is his ring, which materializes back with her in the real world, further implying the power the Mutamycete has. We're given the same ending as what we got from the base game, which now has much more context and meaning. She's taken up Chris's offer to join his operations team, and wearing her dad's jacket and ring, she's ready to exhibit the same heroism that he did. Everything that Ethan did wasn't for nothing. Every parent can aspire to learn from that. Every child can draw a metaphor, and that is the kind of beautiful sliver of hope Resident Evil will leave you with. As much as I picked it apart during this analysis, I thoroughly enjoyed Shadows of Rose. It was nice to feel like I actually was the target audience for once, and I've played far worse for $8 before. It has a reputation for not being as scary as it could have been, but taking everything into account that I've talked about here, I don't think that being horrifying was the point of this DLC at all. I don't need the developers to prove anything to me, and regardless if in Resident Evil 9 we're playing as Rose, Leon, or Jill again, I'm excited to see where this goes, and I trust them to steer us in the right direction with the franchise. Thank you for watching, and subscribe if you're looking forward to more videos in the future.